had this pile of clothes on the floor, and I just sat on them and cried. Felt like a stranger in my own body. And that's when I took the drastic measures. Again, it's not anything by any means that I recommend, because the damage that I did to my body and my hormones and my metabolism by doing that took me years to correct and fix.
Welcome, everybody, to this week's edition of the Lindsey Elmore Show. Throughout history, there have been so many different fad diets out there. Right now, tons of people are doing carnivore, the Dolly Parton diet, the grapefruit diet. People have eaten baby food, and there are even people out there who believe that they can subsist on air and sunlight alone. Today, we are going to be talking with Mandy White Eskelin about why ultra-restrictive diets throw us into a state of metabolic burnout, where we have so much cortisol that we're actually storing fat when we could be eating a healthy, balanced diet. We're going to also be talking about how sugar and not fat is actually making you overweight. Welcome to the Lindsey Elmore Show, a podcast for people who deserve to be healthy, with honest, open, and enlightening conversations with doctors, thought leaders, creatives, and spiritual gurus. You'll walk away with simple and tangible tips and tricks that allow you to live your healthiest life so you can pursue your dreams, overcome obstacles, and leave your mark. Mandy White Eskelin is a retired celebrity personal trainer, holistic nutrition expert, certified gut health specialist, and WBFF fitness pro who placed third in the world at the pro level. Mandy White Eskelin, welcome to the Lindsey Elmore Show.
Thank you so much. I'm so honored to be here with you. I am really, really honored. Thank you.
I am so excited to get to talk to you because we're talking about some of my favorite topics today: stress, cortisol, mental wellness, gut health. And we're really going to talk about how this impacts weight loss. And you have been on your own weight loss journey. Tell us about that.
I have actually, as a now 50-year-old mom of two, after I had my kids, 17 years ago is my youngest, I had about 30 pounds to lose. And after 2 C-sections, I knew that it was going to be a little bit of a challenge. And I have to say that even though I was still a certified personal trainer back then, I did it in a very unhealthy way. I did all the crazy restrictive diets, starvation, you name it. I tried it. I did it. I was so desperate to lose the weight. I remember that day where I made that decision. I was in my closet and I was trying on all of my clothes and nothing fit. Nothing fit me. And I just had this pile of clothes on the floor, and I just sat on them and cried. And I'm like, I don't want to feel like this. I felt like a stranger in my own body. And that's when I took the drastic measures. Again, it's not anything by any means that I recommend, because the damage that I did to my body and my hormones and my metabolism by doing that took me years to correct and fix. So that's why I'm so passionate about women and helping women do it the right way and have a healthy relationship with food and do it in a way that supports their hormones and their cortisol and their metabolism.
Talk to us about some of the craziest diet trends, fads that you tried along the way.
Let's see. You name it, I probably did it. Like juice cleanses, water cleanse, juice fast. I tried keto. I tried intermittent fasting. I tried, honestly, everything. I had tried some 11-day cleanse and detox. I did the master cleanse. Again, you name it, I did it. But the hardest thing for me was unlearning and fixing all of the damage that I did to my body as a result of those crazy diets. And then what's really crazy is I actually, after I lost the weight, the craziest story happened. I had some friends doing a fitness competition here in Las Vegas where I live. And so I went with her to a pool party after, and I had just lost all the weight. honestly, it's probably about 25 pounds at that time. And some people came up to me and they were like, oh my gosh, how did you place? I'm like, I didn't compete. I'm just here supporting my girlfriend that competed. I'm here to cheer her on. And they're like, well, if you look like that without trying, you would do amazing competing. And that's when the seed planted. I'm like, oh, really? Well, I don't know what that looks like. So I hired a coach at that point, and that coach took me from where I was to competition prep ready. And that was a whole other level of unhealthiness with eating and working out. And it just took my, I don't even want to say bad habits, like all of that, and enhanced it. Now, I did step on stage that very first time, and I was deathly terrified of doing that, but I did it scared. And I remember when I did earn that pro card, that they were like, okay, first place goes to Mandy White. And I couldn't even move. I was so dehydrated that my calves were cramped, my cheeks were cramped up. But I realized that I had done so much to my body that, oh my gosh, I'm going to fall on my face. And I didn't want to do that. So I stood there. They obviously gave me the pro card anyway. But it was after that I started having massive metabolic burnout. I didn't have a period and my hormones were messed up. I didn't have a period for almost a year. I had severe anxiety and depression, both at the same time, which back then, this was 13 years ago, I didn't know that all of that was stemming from my gut, which we'll talk more about. And I also had developed food sensitivities to even healthy foods that I ate on a daily basis, including eggs and chicken. And so I didn't know at that time that all of that stuff was going on, which led me to finally just stop. After a couple of years of competing, I ended up in the emergency room a couple of times. And one of the times I fell over in so much pain. I looked like I was 6 months pregnant, but with 4-pack abs. Like, it was that bad. Yeah, something's wrong. Something is wrong with my body. So that's when I said, you know what? I'm going to take my health in my own hands. I put myself through holistic nutrition school, became a certified gut health specialist because I wanted to learn how to heal my body. And then that's when I started to fall in love after that with helping other women. And helping other women have a healthier relationship with food, heal their gut. So that's where my story kind of evolved into like where I am today.
Right, right. And I'm so glad that you mentioned that you were so dehydrated that you felt like you couldn't even move, and that it led to this anxiety and this metabolic dysfunction and food sensitivities. Talk to us about why these ultra restrictive diets lead to so many health problems.
There's so many reasons. A big number is when you constantly eat the same foods over and over and over, your body can form a sensitivity or an intolerance to those things. And what happens is, being so dehydrated, having so much stress and inflammation in my body, my digestion was off as well. Like, I was so constipated. Like, look, we're talking real talk here. We're women. I mean, I was so constipated. Like, but what happens is with all that inflammation that I had going on in my gut, it had caused these microscopic tears in my gut lining. And when that inflammation was there and those microscopic tears happen, now even some healthy food that I was eating was permeating through that gut lining and causing like my body to start attacking and like antibodies against those foods in particularly. And then my body started rejecting those foods, which caused more inflammation in my body. And it just started to like compound and snowball into something that no one could figure out what was the root cause of it all. Why did all of this start? And it was just such a compound effect. So that I understood now, okay, if I can go back to all of it, which is the gut is the second brain. The gut regulates 70% of our hormones, 70% of our immune function, 90% of our serotonin, which is our happy hormone. It's what makes us feel happy. 70% of our dopamine is produced in our gut, which makes us feel motivated. But if your gut isn't functioning, neither is any other aspect of your entire life. And so what I had learned in going to holistic nutrition school is that if I can heal that gut and I can remove those foods that were causing my body inflammation And I did this back then because this was 12 years ago. We didn't have the little home test that you can do for food sensitivities that I recommend to everyone to do. But I had to do it by process of my own elimination and putting the things. It took me so long to realize that one of the main foods that I was having daily, which was eggs, was causing the most issues in my body. And it was the craziest thing to finally figure that out. But of course, gluten and dairy were on there. But then I figured out it was eggs. Then I figured out it was chicken. And I realized that those were two foods that I was constantly eating. And so I'd put them off to the side for a week or two. The inflammation would go down in my gut. I started drinking bovine bone broth, and I'd drink it every day, 3 times a day. But what's really cool is once I knew that that was the type of collagen that I needed to heal my gut lining and then keep those inflammatory foods out, it took me about 2 years before I could have gluten again. It took me 2 years before I could have eggs again. And not to say that it's permanent, but I did that process for a really long time to heal my gut. And once I started focusing on healing my gut, literally it changed everything in my entire life.
It's interesting. So I have a history of bulimia, and when you repeatedly vomit over and over and over again, your body gets conditioned when you eat just to vomit. And it sounds same, but different to what you're saying, which is I was eating the same foods over and over and over again. And it was eventually your body is just like, I need some diversity here. So I'm going to create some allergies. I'm going to create some inflammation. I'm going to create these micro tears, which allow inflammation to flood into the body. Now, I mean, why on earth, as a part of your competition prep, is diversity in the diet not encouraged?
It is. However, I stuck to eggs, chicken, ground turkey, and back then tilapia. Like that was my main sources of protein, so that was it. And I didn't know back then, oh, you need to cycle out your protein. I didn't have, a coach that really knew what they were doing. So I limited it to that. Here was the 4 proteins. Here was the carbs that I could have, and here was the vegetables. I was deathly terrified of eating fruit. I had a horrible relationship with food. I was scared to death. It was so bad. And my extreme is different than yours. I would carry a food scale with me to restaurants, like in my purse, and I would weigh every single piece of food, like every piece of protein, everything that I would put in my mouth. I had to weigh it first. It's not healthy, right? It was not healthy. It's just such not a healthy mentality and relationship with food. But I could have, and I should have, knowing what I know now, gone back and cycled out those proteins, not just daily, but weekly, and had other sources other than just like those 4 main sources, because that's where my body started to create that intolerance and that inflammation towards.
Talk to us about what protein cycling even is.
Well, instead of like people think, oh, have chicken and broccoli for dinner, and then the next day eating the same exact things and the same exact things and the same exact things. And that's what I did, versus having some different protein sources in there, having a little lean red meat, having ground turkey, having salmon, having, ground buffalo, whatever those things are. But knowing that, I tell people now, one of the worst things you can do is have the same foods every single day. Your body becomes resistant to it. Even if you don't have the gut issues, your body will start to be resistant to it. That's like the same thing of doing the same workout every single day. Your body will completely be resistant and plateau, and you're not going to get the results that you really want. And so I didn't know what I know now. And knowing that, I would have cycled out my proteins more on a daily basis. And then maybe my body wouldn't have created those intolerances and those sensitivities to them. But I also look at it that had to happen for me in order for me to go to nutrition school and become a gut health specialist and then be able to change tens of thousands of lives around the world. So I'm grateful that it all happened. But I also know that I can take that story and really help other women not repeat the same pattern that I did.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting because you said like a dirty word a moment ago. You said it took me 2 years before I could eat gluten. And one of the things in Chinese medicine is that an inability to digest real food is a symptom. And so many people completely avoid gluten, and yet they backfill it with all kinds of artificial rice flours and ultra processed foods. You know, throughout your holistic nutrition school, and I really want to I want to talk more about that, but what did you learn about a body that cannot digest real foods?
Oh my gosh, it's so common. It is so common for people because we do eat those ultra processed foods, and gluten and our dairy here in the United States. We could go on a whole other podcast about that and the quality of our food here compared to like what it is in Europe. But when you start looking at the processed foods that we consume on a daily basis, and I'm talking the average American here consumes on a daily basis, it is so ultra processed. It has so many preservatives and chemicals and things that our bodies do not need. And then what happens is our body doesn't know what to do with that. And so our body starts attacking all of it. And then that's where it causes that inflammation in our gut. Now our digestion's not working. It's shut down because we also, with a lot of the chemicals that we eat, it slows down digestion, right? It kills a lot of the digestive enzymes. It kills a lot of the prebiotics and probiotics that is already in our gut that we need in order to break down food. But the processed food is destroying that gut microbiome. And now when that gut microbiome is being destroyed, now it's not even digesting our healthy food that we're eating. Now we become nutrient deficient in vitamins, minerals, enzymes, and antioxidants because our body is not absorbing all of it. Now those nutrient deficiencies cause a lot more disease and illness. So it's just this madness of what happens when we destroy that gut microbiome in our body. Balancing the gut microbiome, really taking care of it because it runs everything. Even though it's called our second brain, to be honest, it controls a lot more than this upper brain actually does.
Talk to us about some of your favorite foods that help to either, if somebody is in a situation where they have a ton of food sensitivities, how do they begin to build and restore the microbiome? And if someone is relatively healthy, but is still got a little bit of excess belly fat or a little bit of high blood pressure or whatever it is, what are some of your favorite foods to balance out the microbiome?
First of all, I love that question. One of the things that I recommend doing, and I run these all the time, and it's a 21-day metabolic reset, not for the principles of a diet. This is actually the opposite of that. But what we do is we take the 8 main inflammatory foods that cause most people issues. We put them off to the side for 21 days.
So we're talking tree nuts, peanuts, fish, gluten, milk.
Gluten, dairy, soy, artificial sweeteners, sugar, alcohol, sodas, and even grains and legumes, just for 21 days. We put them on a shelf. Is not a diet.
So these are different than the primary 8 allergens that we just named. So you're just talking about pro-inflammatory foods and microbiome disrupting foods.
Yeah, exactly.
Interesting. I like that. Okay. All right. So 21-day metabolic reset.
Because I wasn't allergic to any of those foods, right? Like they did a blood allergy test when I was in the ER. I was not allergic to any of those. But what I found out was I was intolerant to them, which won't show up on a blood allergy panel. There is a whole other thing that, like even Amazon, I love the Everly Well on Amazon, food sensitivity test, the 96 foods. It's about $150, but it tests 96 of 96 foods. I recommend that all day, every day, because the only way that we can get a true snapshot as to what is going on in our body is that you get it at home, you prick your finger, you put the thing on a little card, it gives you everything, you mail it off, and in like 7 to 10 days, it shows up on your app, your high, your moderate, and your mild sensitivities, right? Now we can go, oh, wow. I just had another girl do it last week. Garlic was on her high category. It was something that she eats with everything. But that you keep putting something that your body is sensitive to, and then you're causing a constant inflammation in her gut, and she has not been able to figure out what's going on. So I take the 8 gut disruptor foods, and I put them on the side. Put them on the side. You can choose to do the food sensitivity test if you want. I recommend it because it really gives us a true snapshot of what's going on in your body and what your body is like. No, please stop putting that in me, right? And then I help by taking those inflammatory foods out. It allows the body to kind of go down in that inflammation. Then we teach people how to balance the plate with a lean protein. And we have a chart with like 20 lean proteins that you can have, right? A healthy fat like avocado, like coconut oil, like avocado, like olive oil as well, right? So we have a chart of those healthy fats and we teach you how to portion it on your plate. And then the carb on your plate is fruits and vegetables. Now we have certain ones because we want to use real food to create hormonal balance, to stabilize blood sugar, which is going to reduce cravings as well as help your body go from fat storing mode to fat burning mode. So now when you're putting in there the non-inflammatory foods, now your body it's going to react differently than when you're constantly putting something in there that is inflammatory and your body is reacting to. We take out the main 8, but a lot of times I do recommend for people that have digestive issues, go do that find out those 96, because who would have known that garlic would have been on this girl's? My son, I had my 17-year-old son do it last summer because he's like, Mom, and we knew gluten and dairy were disruptors, right, for him. We knew it, but he's a teenager, so he has it all the time. We got to pick our battles here with our kids. But I said, let's just do it and see what else is coming up on there. You're going to be so surprised when you hear this. Blueberries and pineapple and eggs were on his high.
Okay, pineapple I can believe because of the bromelain that's in there, but blueberries and apples?
Blueberries, eggs, pineapples, and we knew gluten and dairy were going to be on there. But what happens is when you've already got the inflammation going on in the gut and you constantly are putting something in there that even if it's healthy, if that little bit, just one tiny little bit permeates that gut lining, then your body is going to react and cause a sensitivity and an intolerance to even a healthy food like pineapple and this other girl, garlic. I mean, it was the only thing on her high category, which is crazy, garlic. So now, obviously, like we want to try to eliminate those things for that 21 days, but then teach your body in that same time how to heal that gut lining. And this is where the right type of supplementation can come in to support the gut lining healing itself, to support digestion, to support the rebalancing of the gut microbiome. Now your body is going to absorb the nutrients again. Now we can truly, using food, allow your body to reverse some of the disease and illness because, again, we're fixing it at the root level, which is our gut.
What would you say to women who are scared to eat fat? Because, women my age, your age, in the 80s, it was, fat was the absolute enemy. And unfortunately, sugar came into all of our foods. And I think that some women still hold on to that to this day. Why do women need fat?
Oh, great question. Yes, I remember the whole 80s fat-free everything, but we didn't realize back then that when you take out the fat, they have to replace it with something else, right? Women, especially our age, like that, I mostly coach women, in that 35 to 40 and over range, because of perimenopause. But we need good, healthy fats for our testosterone production. We need good, healthy fats in order to burn bad fat. Let me say that again. We need good, healthy fats in order to burn the bad fat in our body. We have to have it. We need it. And not to say that you need to go and just eat a whole avocado every day, but when you learn how to portion it properly, you're going to see more benefits from having those healthy fats for your testosterone production, for even like your healthy cholesterol levels, to be able to burn the bad fat. That's where I feel it's so important for people to understand the relationship of what really goes on their plate, because we do need those healthy fats. Like, you should be more scared. I'm not joking. You should be more scared of the sugars that you consume because of what that does, because sugar is really what makes us fat, not fats. Fats do not make us fat. Fats don't make us fat. It's sugar that makes us fat. And so if you would understand that, you would not want to touch anything that, I'm talking like white sugar, processed sugar, all of that stuff. I'm not talking fruits. Fruits we need, but fruit, by the way, I'm going to pause here for a second. Fruit should never be eaten alone. Fruit is not a snack. It's not a meal. You never want to eat fruit by itself. Fruit should be paired with a healthy fat and a protein. Always. They should always be paired together so that it doesn't spike your blood sugar, because what happens is if you eat fruit by itself, your body is still going to convert it to sugar, and then if it's not utilized, it's going to be stored as fat. But when you learn how to balance that plate so food becomes your friend, and okay, if I really want, some, let's just say raspberries. Raspberries is one of my favorite. Raspberries have so many health benefits. But if I'm going to have if I'm craving raspberries, well, then I'm going to put it with, maybe I'll have a couple of hard-boiled eggs with it so that I've got my healthy fats in the yolk and I've got my protein, and then I can have my berries. Like, it's such a, now after doing this and living like this for years, it just like, I would never be able to just eat that by itself, because the goal is to balance blood sugar, because even fruit will spike your insulin levels. And if your body doesn't utilize it, it's going to store it as fat. The other thing is, if you just eat fruit by itself, in about an hour, your blood sugar levels are going to crash. And then now your body is like, oh, I need some more sugar. Feed me. I need more. And now you're going to crave more sugar, versus learning how to eat and stabilize those blood sugar levels so that your muscles are fed, and then your body is not going to hold on to any of that fat.
I want to go back to what you mentioned about good fats versus, we need good fat to burn bad fat. What is good fat and what is bad fat?
So good fats would be like avocados, olive oil. Those are like good, healthy fats, versus like bad fats. Now, butter, I can see on there, right? So I'm not saying butter, but I'm really talking about like the unhealthy fats that are added to other ones, like
your canola oils and your seed oils. Mm-hmm.
Yes, like seed oils is such a bad one. It's all high in what we call omega-6s. So we need omega-3s. We get so much omega-6s, which are those unhealthy fats, in our diet, just from processed foods and oils and extra things. Like, I see it on things that you think are healthy, and then you see all of these seed oils or canola oil or just all the oils. It's just yuck added to there. Those are super high in omega-6s, and omega-6s are high inflammatory oils. In order to combat those omega-6s, we need more omega-3s, which would be salmon, right? Like wild salmon, not farm raised, but like wild salmon. That's a great source of omega-3s. We don't need any more omega-6s. We get them. Think about omega-6s on a cellular level, form like this hard candy coating over our cells, okay? Think about like an M&M, right? Think about the hard candy coating that goes on the outside of an M&M. So omega-6s cover our cells. And in order for us to remove that, we need to combat it with lots of omega-3s. Lots of omega-3s will help destroy and break apart that inflammatory omega-6s. Another thing, our body stores, and by the way, most people don't know this, toxins are stored in our fat cells. Do you know what your brain is?
It's mostly going to be fat.
So a lot of these chemicals and omega-6s are stored in our fat cells, including our brain. So when you start thinking about your brain on a cellular level, and now you've got all of these omega-6s that are covering the cells of our brain, now what happens is this can lead to Alzheimer, dementia, Parkinson's, all of those brain-related illnesses. It's a really scary thing because, I see it with my parents and getting older and their generations and what they eat. Like I'm on my parents all the time about don't eat that. Like replace canola oil and vegetable oil with coconut oil or avocado oil. Like we need the good, healthier omega-3s to combat the damage of the omega-6s that we consume from our processed foods. It's so, so important.
So if somebody is just getting started and they're currently basically eating 100% ultra processed foods, their palate is so conditioned to this like bliss point, the anandamide point, where they've got that optimum balance of the sugar and the fat and the carbs and everything. And so how can people start to change their palate to where they actually like eating real food?
That's a good question. It takes time, right? It does take time. And I know that you know this because you're so brilliant. I love when you and I have these
Thank you.
You are. There was a study that was done, and I learned about this in holistic nutrition school, that sugar has the same effect on the brain as cocaine does. They've done brain scans. And that's why, that's why people also have a tough time not eating sugar. There's another one. There is, and I think I'm saying it right. So cheese has a chemical in there, and I believe it's called glutamorphine.
Casein. Oh, Yeah. Glutamorphine. Casomorphine.
Thank you. Casomorphine. It has the same effect on the brain as morphine does. And they've done scans, which is why people cutting out cheese and sugar are some of the hardest things to cut out. Now, I still love my cheese, but it's all about like moderation, right? But when your brain is also so addicted to not only the palate, but chemically in your brain addicted to the sugar and to the cheese, we have to, that's another reason why we do that metabolic reset, because we put those foods on the side for 21 days and we're reprogramming our brain and our palates that it's going to crave differently because we are like taking an addict off of a drug, right? We've got to detox. We have to detox our body and it will change. Like I know even for me years ago, like I had this thing for, what was the yellow packets? Splenda.
Oh, okay. I thought we were talking Velveeta, but different yellow packets. Yes.
So it took me a long time to get away from sugar. I grew up in the South, sweet tea, like you name it. But I grew up that way. Then I switched to Splenda, which are the yellow packets, which is sucralose. And because I tasted that, it took me a while to knowing how much of a gut disruptor that sucralose is. But I still had a tough time switching over and adjusting my palate to something like a stevia or a monk fruit. Now, when I taste that other artificial, now it's like, oh my gosh, that is like gross and it tastes terrible, but it does take time to help your palate, right? And it's also a mental thing because your brain is trying to tell you, no, that doesn't taste good. But when you're just like, no, I'm going to eat this because I know that I need to eat this, it's fuel for my body. It's fuel for what I need. Eventually, you're going to crowd out those bad cravings. Eventually, you're going to stabilize the blood sugar enough. You're going to balance that gut microbiome. The diversity in your microbiome is going to signal to your brain, oh, wow, this is good food. I like this. It's going to, in all three, right? I know it sounds crazy, but you will reprogram your palate from what we do between your brain and your gut. And it just takes a little bit of time. But once you do it and you start feeling better, because most people are in that they live in this chronic inflammatory state, and they don't even realize that, oh, I'm craving sugar. Well, let's teach you why you're craving sugar. Let's balance your blood sugar with real food and watch how your cravings come down. Now your body is going to crave more of the good stuff and less of the bad stuff. So we kind of crowd it out. But then when we bring those inflammatory foods in after 21 days, we teach people how to properly do that, right? Don't just go, okay, I'm going to go have pizza and I'm going to go have all of this stuff, because your body is going to act like you just had a bowling ball in your stomach. So we teach people how to properly, now after 21 days, bring those inflammatory foods back in, listening to your body, because now you have a different foundation. Now you have a foundation of no inflammation. Your body is absorbing nutrients. Your digestion's working. Your metabolism has sped up. Your cortisol levels are regulated. You go and throw all of that in there. You will notice if your body wants it or doesn't want it. Like I have so many people like, oh my gosh, I realize my body just doesn't like that anymore. I'm like, because we've taught your body and your brain and your gut to want more of the good stuff that you've been having for 21 days and less of the bad. And then that's where this becomes a lifestyle. We reprogram their body and their brain and their gut to want more of the good stuff, because that's how they feel so good.
Mm-hmm. You know, we're rapidly running out of time, but I want to hit on why you chose holistic nutrition school versus like a traditional nutrition degree or a dietary degree, a functional dietitian degree. I mean, there's all kinds of dietary degrees and nutrition degrees out there. What made you go to holistic nutrition school?
Great question. There was a couple of reasons. Number one, because I did not agree by any means with the food pyramid that is taught to registered dietitians, to nutritionists. It's not like you have to operate you're required with your certification, with your licensing, to operate under the food pyramid, the traditional food pyramid, which I'm sorry, I do not agree with that whatsoever. And I was not about to have someone come and tell me that I could only coach and operate and guide people under those regulations, because I don't believe in that, where bread was one of the big ones and dairy was one of the big ones and sugar. Now they've got like cereals on there, which, oh gosh. All right. So
I heard somebody call cereal human kibble.
I think it was, and I won't name, there was one company, I won't name it on here, that designed a specific cereal to suppress testosterone levels and raise estrogen levels. Is this not crazy? Insane, right? Which is why you see young, 8, 10, 12-year-old boys with like these man boobs, and then it goes on into puberty and all their life. All right, so that's, yes, it is human kibble. I mean, it's horrible. Like, anyway, that was one of the main reasons that I chose not to go to that traditional, because I did not want to be forced to regulate under that food pyramid guideline. Mm-hmm. That there were so many other things out there. And another thing I chose holistic nutrition school for is because it's not always just about the food that you're putting on your plate. That is actually our secondary food. What's our primary foods is what's going on in our life, our relationships, our career, our, self-love, there's a whole circle of what we call primary foods. And it has to do with things that are not even on your plate that affect what you want to put on your plate. So I wanted outside things. I wanted to be able to operate under guidelines with, ancient Chinese herbs and plants and those sort of things in order to help people truly heal their body. And that's I found it, and I'm like, that's exactly what I want to do.
Okay. All right. I love that so much, because I think that there is confusion out there about what is the difference between functional, holistic, integrative. We've got all these buzzwords, but they don't always mean anything. And I like the fact that you're saying, it's not only about what's on your plate. I think of like if you're having an argument while you're trying to eat. I'm a huge fan of the work of Janine Roth, and she talks about how if you're not calm and relaxed while you're eating, well, guess what? You're not digesting any of that food. You're not extracting any of the nutrition from it. Now, again, super rapidly running out of time, but in just 2 minutes or less, we mentioned dopamine, serotonin, and how important it is for our gut. And we talked about how the brain is primarily made of fat. What is your take on how incorporating how we eat, when we eat, and what we eat can have an impact on our mental wellness?
Oh, without a doubt, because our gut, and I'll say this story quickly. Most people don't understand the gut-brain connection. And so when we were an embryo, not even a fetus, our gut and our brain were one. But
Yes.
as we grew into the fetus, our gut and our brain separated, but they stayed connected through one thing called the vagus nerve. So we, as people, we have a connection. The second largest nerve in the body is the vagus nerve that connects our brain to our gut. It's like a two-way highway. It communicates both ways. And so if you think about that highway, and when you've got things going on in your gut, now your gut is not producing the serotonin, the dopamine, the GABA, any of that, and it's signaling, there's nothing signaling to your brain. Now your brain is like, okay, I feel depressed. I feel anxious. I feel sad. I feel overwhelmed and burnt out. I can't function. I've got brain fog, because there might be the communication from the top to the bottom, but the other way, if it's not communicating, if it's not sending those little neurotransmitters up to your brain and back down, that's going to determine how you feel. So depending on what you eat will determine how you feel. It will determine your mood, your motivation, your cravings, your mental clarity, your the anxiousness or sadness, whatever those feelings are. All of that is determined what goes on inside your gut, and it all is determined by what you actually eat and what you put in your body.
I love all of this so very much. Mandy White Eskelin, thank you so much for coming in and being a guest today. I think that we have learned so much about the connection between the way that we eat, what we're eating, what's on the plate, and really how adversely ultra restrictive diets can impact not only our body weight and our body composition, but also our mental wellness. So thank you so much for coming in and being a guest today on the Lindsey Elmore Show.
Thank you so much for having me. I am so honored to be here. I can't wait for part 2.